the field hospital, was not supposed to exist. Captain Elena Vasquez had set it up anyway in a half-collapsed warehouse 3 kilometers behind what used to be the front line before the front line decided to become everywhere at once. The building had 2 walls, most of a roof, and enough space to lay 30 wounded soldiers on salvaged crates and cargo netting. She was treating her 19th patient when the Krell patrol found her. Elena was 32 years old. She had been a trauma surgeon on Earth for 6 years before the war, another 4 years in combat zones after it started. She had steady hands, a precise memory for anatomy across 4 species, and the specific kind of exhaustion that made sleep feel like a theoretical concept someone had mentioned once at a medical conference. The soldier on her table was Krell. His name was something Elena could not pronounce, so she called him 17 because he was the 17th Krell she had treated since the ceasefire collapsed 8 days ago. He had taken shrapnel across his thorax and was bleeding into his primary lung chamber. "Hold still, I am trying to not kill you by accident." 17 made a sound that might have been laughter or pain. Krell physiology made both sound similar. Elena's assistant was a young Terran private named Marcus Webb, who had been assigned to logistics and retasked to medical support when the hospital had run out of actual medical personnel. He held the retractor steady while Elena worked. "Captain, we have movement outside." Elena did not look up, hostile or lost. "Both maybe." Elena sealed the arterial bleed with a thermal patch and checked 17's breathing. "Better. Not good, but better. If they shoot before asking questions, get under the table. If they ask questions first, let me talk." "What if they are ours?" "Same plan." The door opened. Not kicked, not blasted, just opened by someone who knew how doors worked and was not trying to impress anyone. 6 Krell soldiers entered in formation. Their armor was mud-dark, their weapons raised, their posture textbook enemy combatant. The lead soldier was tall even for Krell, with 3 scars across his faceplate that marked command experience. He looked at Elena. He looked at the Krell soldier on her table. He looked at the 12 other wounded Krell lying on cots and cargo netting throughout the warehouse. His weapon stayed raised. "You are Terran," he said in heavily accented human common. Elena wiped blood from her hands. "Yes." "You are treating our soldiers." "Yes." "Why?" Elena looked at 17, who was breathing easier now, his eyes half closed. "Because they are dying and I am a doctor." Those 2 facts seemed relevant. The commander's grip on his weapon shifted. Behind him, his soldiers spread out, checking the room. One stopped beside a young Krell soldier who could not have been older than 19. The boy had lost his left arm at the shoulder. Elena had cauterized it herself 4 hours ago. The soldier looked at the stump, then at Elena, then back at his commander. The commander lowered his weapon slowly. "You saved them." "Some of them, others died before I could help." "You are alone." Marcus raised one hand. "I am here too." The commander ignored him. "Where are your soldiers?" Elena gestured vaguely north. "Fighting yours last I checked." "And you stayed here." "The wounded do not stop bleeding just because the battle moves." The commander stepped closer. His armor was damaged across the left side, burn marks and impact craters. Fresh damage. He had been in combat recently. "You know what we do to Terran medics we capture." Elena met his eyes. "Yes, you execute them as combatants." "And you stayed anyway." "The wounded do not stop bleeding," Elena repeated, "just because I might get shot." The commander was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at his soldiers. "Lower your weapons." They hesitated. He said it again harder. They obeyed. He turned back to Elena. "I am Strike Commander Vorath. These soldiers are my unit. We have wounded 3 kilometers east. Can you help them?" Elena looked at the 12 Krell already in her hospital. "I have limited supplies." We have supplies, no medic. Your medic. Dead yesterday. Elena looked at Marcus. He was pale but steady. She looked at 17, who was watching the conversation with dark Krell eyes that understood more than his injuries should have allowed. I will help, Elena said, on one condition. Voreth's hand moved toward his sidearm. You are not in a position to negotiate. I am the only surgeon within 10 kilometers who knows Krell physiology and is not actively trying to kill you. That is an excellent negotiating position. Voreth's faceplate darkened. What condition? You leave my patients alone, all of them. Terran, Krell, anyone I am treating. They are off limits until they can walk out of here themselves. Some of them are your soldiers. Yes, and some of them are yours, the Khan. Condition applies to everyone. Voreth stared at her, then he nodded once. Agreed, we leave in 10 minutes. Elena turned to Marcus. Watch them. If anyone gets worse, use the emergency stims in the blue case. Do not use the red case unless someone is actively dying. Marcus swallowed. What is in the red case? Things that will either save them or kill them faster. Good luck figuring out which. She grabbed her medical kit, checked the supplies, and followed Voreth into the rain. The Krell forward position was worse than Elena expected. They had set up in a bombed-out transit station with no roof, minimal cover, and 18 wounded soldiers lying in the mud because there was nowhere else to put them. Elena counted injuries fast. 3 critical, 7 serious, 8 stable but deteriorating. She pointed at the 3 critical cases. Move them under the overhang. I need light and something flat to work on. The Krell soldiers moved without question. Within minutes, Elena had a makeshift operating area with portable lights, a cargo door serving as a surgical table, and Voreth standing beside her holding a tray of instruments like the galaxy's most intimidating nurse. The first soldier had a punctured lung and internal bleeding. Elena worked fast, sealing the damage, draining the blood cavity, stabilizing his breathing. He survived. The second soldier had severe burns across 40% of his body. Elena did what she could with synthetic skin grafts and pain suppressors. He would live, but recovery would take months. The third soldier was a young Krell woman with shrapnel buried near her primary heart. Elena opened the wound, extracted the fragments one by one, and sealed the damage with a precision that came from years of practice and no sleep. She was halfway through closing when the gunfire started. Voreth moved to the doorway, weapon raised. Terran patrol, 4 soldiers, they have seen us. Elena did not look up. Tell them to leave. They are aiming at us. Tell them anyway. Voreth shouted something in Krell, then switched to human common. We have your medic. She is treating our wounded. Leave or we return fire. The Terran patrol leader's voice came back, young and uncertain. Captain Vasquez is dead. Command reported her missing 3 days ago. Elena called out without stopping her work. Lieutenant, this is Captain Vasquez. I am not dead. I am busy. Go away. Silence. Then the lieutenant's voice again, closer now. Captain, are you a prisoner? No, I'm a surgeon. These soldiers have wounded. I am helping. You are helping the enemy. Elena sealed the last suture and checked the woman's vitals. Stable. She looked toward the doorway where the Terran patrol was visible in the fading light. Lieutenant, what is your name? Lieutenant James Harkness, Captain. Lieutenant Harkness, how many wounded do you have? A pause. 3, Captain, 1 critical. Bring them here. Another pause, longer. Captain, those are Krell soldiers. Yes, and you have Terran soldiers who are bleeding. Bring them here or watch them die. Your choice. The patrol did not move for almost a minute. Then Harkness said something to his squad, and they came forward slowly, weapons lowered but ready, carrying 3 wounded soldiers. Elena pointed to the far corner. Put them there. I will get to them after I finish with her. Harkness stared at the Krell woman on the table. You are treating her first. She was here first. I do not run a queue based on species. One of Harkness's soldiers, a private with a deep cut across his face, said, Captain, they killed Rodriguez. They killed Davis. They have been killing us for 3 months. Elena looked at him. I know, and we have been killing them. That is why there are so many wounded. Now sit down and let me work. She treated the Krell woman until she was stable, then moved to the Terran soldiers. The critical case was a young corporal with a sucking chest wound. Elena stabilized him, sealed the lung, and cleared the blood from his airway. He would live. The second soldier had a broken leg and shrapnel wounds. Elena set the bone, removed the shrapnel, and wrapped the leg in a stabilization brace. The third soldier was the private with the facial cut. Elena cleaned it, sealed it, and told him he would have a scar but no permanent damage. When she finished, the warehouse was silent except for the rain and the breathing of 19 wounded soldiers. Terran and Krell, enemy and enemy, all alive because one human medic had decided bleeding mattered more than flags. Harkness stood near the door watching Voreth, who was watching him. Neither had fired, neither had moved. Elena cleaned her instruments and repacked her kit. Lieutenant, your soldiers can stay here tonight. In the morning, take them back to your base. Commander Voreth, your soldiers can stay as well. In the morning, take them to yours. Voreth turned to her. You trust us not to kill each other in the night. Elena looked at him, then at Harkness, then at the wounded soldiers lying in rows. No, but I trust that if you start shooting in here, I will be extremely annoyed, and neither of you wants to deal with that. Harkness almost smiled. Captain, you are insane. Probably. Now everyone sit down and stop making my life harder. They stayed, Terran and Krell, in the same bombed-out transit station, watching each other, not shooting, not because of orders or treaties or ceasefires, but because one exhausted human surgeon had made it very clear that bleeding mattered more than sides. Elena slept for 2 hours against a wall, woke when one of the Krell soldiers started seizing, stabilized him, and went back to sleep. When morning came, both groups left. Harkness took his soldiers north, Voreth took his south. They did not salute, they did not speak, they just left. Elena went back to her warehouse hospital with Marcus, who had somehow kept all 12 patients alive through the night. Captain, he said quietly, what you did last night was against about 15 regulations. Elena checked on 17, who was sitting up now, eating something that looked like protein paste. 16, actually, I counted. Command is going to be furious. Let them, I am too tired to care. For 3 days, nothing happened. Elena treated wounded. Marcus assisted. The war continued in the distance like background noise. On the 4th day, a Terran military convoy arrived at the warehouse. 6 armored vehicles, 30 soldiers, one very angry colonel named Victor Dre who walked into Elena's hospital with the kind of fury that had been building for several days. Captain Vasquez. Elena was suturing a Terran soldier's leg. Colonel, you are under arrest for treating enemy combatants, violating operational security, and unauthorized negotiation with hostile forces. Elena tied off the suture. Can this wait until I finish with his leg? No. Elena looked at him. Colonel, he will bleed out in 4 minutes if I stop now. Dre's jaw tightened. Then work fast. Elena worked fast. She sealed the wound, checked the soldier's vitals, and cleaned her hands. All right, arrest me. 2 soldiers moved forward with restraints. Marcus stepped between them. Sir, the captain has saved 43 lives in the last 8 days, Terran and Krell. She has not violated any. Dre cut him off. Private, step aside or join her in custody. Marcus looked at Elena. She nodded. He stepped aside. They restrained Elena in front of her patients, in front of the soldiers she had saved, in front of Marcus, who looked like he wanted to start a fight with 30 armed soldiers and was barely stopping himself. Dre walked through the hospital looking at each patient. Terran, Krell, Terran, Krell. His expression darkened with every bed. "You treated them," he said. "You saved enemy soldiers." Elena met his eyes. "I saved soldiers. The enemy part is your problem, not mine. You violated direct orders. You gave aid to hostile forces. I gave aid to wounded people. If that is illegal, court-martial me." Dre looked like he wanted to. Then one of the Terran soldiers, a Sergeant Elena had treated 3 days ago for a shattered shoulder, sat up. "Sir, permission to speak." Dre turned, denied. The sergeant spoke anyway. "Sir, Captain Vasquez saved my life. She saved Williams. She saved Kofi. She has been saving everyone who comes through that door regardless of what uniform they wear. You want to arrest her for that, you arrest us too." Another soldier sat up, then another, then 6 more, all Terran, all saved by Elena. Dre looked at them, then at Elena, then at the Krell patients who were watching silently. "Captain Vasquez, you are confined to base pending formal charges. This hospital is shut down. All patients will be transferred to proper facilities." Elena said nothing. They took her. The convoy drove for 2 hours to the regional command base, a fortified compound with real walls, real security, and real officers who looked at Elena like she was a traitor. She was placed in a detention cell. Not a brig, not a prison, just a holding room with a bed, a chair, and a guard outside the door. She sat for 6 hours. No one spoke to her. No one charged her. No one told her what would happen next. Then the explosion happened. The base alarm screamed. Gunfire erupted from the eastern perimeter. Soldiers ran past her cell toward the fighting. The guard outside her door left without a word. Elena waited. The fighting got closer. Then the door opened. It was not a Terran soldier. It was Vorath. He had 4 soldiers with him, all armed, all bloody. Captain Vasquez. Elena stood. "Commander Vorath. We are extracting you." "Why?" "Because you saved my soldiers. Because you treated them when you did not have to. Because when your people arrested you for helping mine, that became unacceptable." Elena stared at him. "You are attacking a Terran base to rescue me." "Yes. That is insane." Vorath's faceplate flickered. "You said bleeding mattered more than flags. We agreed. Now come before this gets worse." Elena did not move. "I cannot leave. If I run, they will call me a deserter. If you stay, they will call you a traitor." "Maybe, but running makes it true." Vorath stepped closer. "Your people arrested you for saving lives." "Yes. That is not justice." "No, but leaving is not the answer." Gunfire erupted closer. One of Vorath's soldiers said something sharp in Krell. Vorath did not move. "Captain, we cannot hold this position long." Elena looked at him. "Then leave, I am staying." "They will imprison you." "Probably." "They will court-martial you." "Maybe." "You saved my soldiers. I will not leave you here to suffer for that." Elena's voice was quiet. "Commander, if you take me by force, you make everything I did look like collaboration. You turn mercy into treason. You cannot save me by making me a prisoner." Vorath went still, then he stepped back. "You are certain?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment, then he nodded once. "We will remember this." "I know." Vorath and his soldiers left the way they came. The alarms continued. The fighting continued, and Elena sat back down on the bed to wait. The attack ended 30 minutes later. 8 Terran soldiers wounded, 2 Krell dead. The base went into lockdown. Colonel Dre came to Elena's cell 2 hours later, furious and confused. "They came for you. The Krell attacked this base to extract you." Elena nodded. "Yes." "Why?" Because I saved their soldiers. Because they believe in repaying debts. Dre stared at her. You refuse to go with them. Yes. Why? Because running would have made everything I did look like treason. I am not a traitor. I am a doctor. There is a difference. Dre was quiet for a long time. Then he said, You are the strangest soldier I have ever met. I am not a soldier. I am a surgeon. You keep forgetting that. The court-martial happened 3 weeks later. Formal charges: rendering aid to enemy forces, violating operational security, unauthorized treatment of hostile combatants. Elena did not contest the facts. She admitted everything. She explained nothing. The prosecution built their case over 2 days. Regulations, chain of command, the necessity of treating the enemy as the enemy. Then the defense called their first witness, Private Marcus Webb. He testified for an hour. He described the warehouse hospital, the wounded soldiers, the way Elena had treated everyone equally, the way she had saved lives without asking which flag they served. The second witness was Sergeant Colin Drake, the Terran soldier who had spoken up at the warehouse. He testified that Elena had saved his life, that she had saved 6 others in his unit, that she had worked for 8 days straight without sleep to keep people alive. The third witness was Lieutenant James Harkness. He testified about the night at the transit station, about Elena treating Krell and Terran wounded side by side, about how no one had fired because one exhausted doctor had made it clear that bleeding mattered more than sides. The prosecution tried to dismiss their testimony. The defense called 14 more witnesses, all soldiers, all saved by Elena. Then the defense called a witness that made the entire courtroom go silent. Commander Vorath appeared via secure transmission, his image filling the display. He was not supposed to be there. The Krell High Command had not authorized his testimony. He testified anyway. Captain Elena Vasquez saved 17 Krell soldiers, he said. She did this while knowing we were her enemy. She did this without asking for anything in return. She treated us as people, not as targets. When my soldiers and I came to extract her from your base, she refused to leave because she said running would make her look like a traitor. She chose your justice over our protection. That is not the behavior of a traitor. That is the behavior of someone who believes healing matters more than hatred. The prosecution had no response. The tribunal deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the lead judge looked tired. Captain Elena Vasquez, this tribunal finds you guilty of unauthorized treatment of enemy combatants. However, given the circumstances, the extraordinary number of lives saved, and the testimony of soldiers from both sides, this tribunal sentences you to formal reprimand and reassignment. You will not return to combat zones. You will serve the remainder of your commission in a medical research facility on Earth. Elena stood. Sir, I request permission to return to the field hospital. The judge stared at her. Request denied. Captain, you are too valuable to lose and too dangerous to trust. Go home, teach, train, save lives in a way that does not require court-martials. Elena said nothing. The trial ended. She was escorted out. 3 months later, Elena was on Earth, teaching trauma surgery to medical students who had never seen a combat wound. It was useful. It was important. It was not the warehouse. Then the letter arrived, not through official channels, not through Terran mail. It was delivered by a neutral courier from the Concord Mediation Office. Inside was a single piece of Krell parchment, with formal script and Vorath's command seal. It read, Captain Vasquez, the 17 soldiers you saved have returned to duty. 5 have since saved other lives using the techniques you taught me. Your warehouse hospital is maintained as neutral ground by mutual agreement. Both sides honor it. Wounded are treated there regardless of uniform. They call it Vasquez's line. It is the only place in this war where bleeding matters more than flags. We remember. Vorath. Elena read it 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her desk drawer. 6 months after that, the war ended. Not because of treaties, not because of diplomacy, because both sides were exhausted and broken and tired of bleeding. The ceasefire included one unusual clause. Medical personnel on both sides would be protected as non-combatants. Hospitals would be neutral ground. Wounded would be treated regardless of species or allegiance. It was called the Vasquez Protocol. Elena did not know about it until a reporter asked her for comment. "I have no comment," she said. "I was just doing my job." The reporter pressed, "Captain, you changed the rules of war." Elena looked at her. "No, I just refused to let the rules of war change who I was." 10 years after the war ended, Elena was 62 years old and still teaching. She had trained 200 surgeons. She had written 3 textbooks. She had saved thousands of lives indirectly by teaching others to save lives directly. She received a message one morning from an unknown sender. It was a photo. A warehouse with 2 walls, most of a roof, and a sign above the door in 3 languages, Terran, Krell, and Conquered Common. The sign read, "Vasquez's line, neutral ground, all wounded welcome." Below the photo was a single sentence, "We remember, 17." Elena smiled, then she went back to teaching. If this one stayed with you, share it. If you want the next one, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Stay human.